Welcome back. I'm Mike. He's Byron.
What up?
Say hello to the people.
No.
We're here to talk about 205 Live from, it'll be July 11th, and the NXT program from July 12th.
Correct.
So 2 hours of what is usually pretty solid wrestling. So let's open up with the 205 Live. And we open up with a Titus O'Neil package with Akira Tozawa. The gist of which is basically that Titus is going to get him another title shot. And he should not feel bad for how he beat Neville last week, which was ball abuse, or the prior night. Pardon me, it wasn't even last week.
Something like that, yeah.
The prior Raw, where he kicked the rope while it was on the balls of Neville.
Their prior engagement.
Their prior engagement of a ball hostilities. I'm sorry, I'm stuck in a loop at this point.
Damn nuts.
Anyways, Daivari barges in, hangs up on Titus O'Neil, and he has arranged for take on Tozawa tonight in a one-on-one match. I did like the hyping up the Iranian wrestling history. Iran wrestling is huge. It is massive. So talking about its integrity, its honor, etc. I actually kind of liked it. And then he charges out and says that Tozawa basically shouldn't be begging for another rematch, which is kind of weird because I feel like he probably begged to get this match. So, I don't know. Then we went into Akira Tozawa versus Daivari. We saw some early control from Daivari, and Tozawa took control, but only to be ambushed by Neville. So what'd you think of this particular segment?
It was alright. I didn't really have any strong feelings about the match. It was about as good a match as I think Daivari's capable of having.
He's capable of actually having a lot better, but he's definitely a guy who's been told to wrestle to a style and character that just really isn't him.
Well, then I need to see something different, because this basically my opinion of Daivari is that he is an intolerable wrestler with a predictable gimmick, and I guess this is just how Vince treats brown people all over, because this is how I'm used to seeing brown people on the WWE. Didn't really do anything for Tozawa, didn't really do anything for Neville, didn't really do anything for Daivari. So, the match was okay, but it wasn't anything I haven't seen already.
I will say the post-match beatdown with the Rings of Saturn was a little bit of a turn-off for me, because just because of the nature of the Rings of Saturn, it doesn't really work for a pass-out maneuver the way they like to use it. It'd be nice if Neville could take a similar position but turn it into a choke. That would probably make it a little better. Yeah,
a little side choke action would probably be good. If they want people to pass out, it has to be a choke. Yep. The whole "I'm passing out from intense pain" either happens instantaneously or over an extreme amount of time, like hours. So somebody needs to show Vince some mixed martial arts, like a lot of mixed martial arts.
Pretty much. So, yeah, I would change that. I would have also let the match go on a little bit longer, because you, at some point, have to start kind of getting Daivari over. Like, let him show off his offense a little bit. Let them have a couple of minutes to do the match, at least. And then move on from there. But, not bad. Then we had Drew Gulak going full politician mode. I like this. What about you?
Yeah, it was good. It's, kind of just a continuation of his character, continuation of what he's been saying so far. I liked the fake apology, because I enjoyed the fact that there was a fake apology, the fact that he thought that the fact that his character would think that anybody would care, really makes me giggle. And he just does it really well. Like, he's sort of, it's weird because I haven't seen a ton of him on the indies, but from what I have seen, this isn't anything like his regular character.
No, this is definitely a new character, although the wrestling style is relatively similar to what he did on the indies.
Yeah, so it's definitely
he's not the most aerodynamic of cruiserweights.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be definitely interesting. I don't know if they have I remember back in the day they were going to have, what was it? It was going to be like an amateur wrestling match between Foley and somebody. Maybe it was Angle. And Angle just cheated the whole time, or maybe I'm remembering that wrong. I can't
say that I recall
I don't have a firm grasp on the details, but there was going to be an amateur wrestling match, and the guy who was the great amateur wrestler just cheated the entire fucking time. It was pretty great. So I'm wondering if they're going to do a similar gimmick match with this.
That could be interesting. I'd be down for that. Then we move on to, well, we had a Punjabi prison package, and then a TJP versus Rich Swann package, kind of recap thing. And then we went into Rich Swann versus Mario Connors, which was a bit weird because they let the jobber get a fair amount of offense to the point where I was kind of wondering, is this like some kind of under-the-radar signing that I missed?
1, 2, 3 kid.
Well, yeah, kind of like that, to be honest, although he lost.
Yeah, looked pretty good doing it, though.
Yeah, but he got a nice spinning DDT in there for even a near fall on Rich Swann. Like, more substantial than the standard jobber offense, for sure, and he actually had some pretty nice gear. So,
noise beats.
Maybe we'll see more of him. I don't know. The ending to this kind of makes me doubt it, but...
I mean, he's just about as over as anybody else they got on the 205 roster, so why not keep him around?
TJP is at ringside. He watches Swann win with the Phoenix Splash while looking thoroughly unimpressed. And then he gets on the mic and he asks Swann if he was happy with his performance. So kind of, to a degree, turning back Swann's earlier comments back on him. And he expected more out of someone who beat TJP. So he wants a match with Mario Connors, basically saying, I can beat him in half the time. And gets the clock to be displayed of how long it took Rich Swann to win, which is 3 minutes 49 seconds. And he gets a match with Mario Connors. Mario accepts, and yeah, TJP dominates the hell out of him with basically Connors gets to escape a knee bar and get kind of a roll up near fall, but that was about it. He falls to the detonation kick in 28 seconds. So I would say we're going to be with TJP as a heel for a while longer, which I'm not opposed to, although his music still doesn't suit the heel lifestyle.
I actually do enjoy it as heel music because basically anybody who views video games as just nerdy things will automatically hate him. And I don't really hate him, and I'll enjoy watching him make those kind of people really upset, so I'm good with it.
Yeah. I suppose when you put it that way, actually, it's not too bad. I'm enjoying the feud, which hasn't fully metamorphosized into a feud yet. It's still pretty friendly, but we're headed there. And it's good they abandoned the TJP face turn that it looked like they were going for a couple of weeks ago with the Austin Aries departure, because you really need something to prop up that heel side out underneath Neville, and TJP can do that.
Yeah, that's. I'm just glad to see them give TJP some sort of any kind of mic time or other, because he's really the only person. He's the only person with a personality on that show now. So he needs to be on TV saying things.
Well, Tozawa's got a personality. I mean, it's like saying a lot, but
they're almost devolving him back into a one-note character. They seem to really love doing this. It's like, let's develop this thing and then immediately just pretend it never happened.
True. I hope that doesn't happen with Tozawa. But he's a foreigner, so it probably will.
He going to talk a bit of funny. He say funny thing, eat fish. Oh, yes.
Yeah, then we're on to Brian Kendrick doing Gentleman Jack deal. Take this one. Short answer, I didn't like it.
Well, I mean, we've already covered this. His character has jumped the shark. They need to take him off TV and retool him. That's the end of the story. Done. There. The segment covered. Gentleman Jack was good. Jack coming out talking is always good, because Jack on the mic is always good. And Brian Kendrick needs to be off TV. Done.
Well, the other problem is just the ending of this. It's basically so he laid him out and beat him up with the umbrella again.
Yeah.
Like, just we already did this. We need to move on. we need to get to the next chapter of the story.
But like I said,
we're not even on the next chapter. We're solidly on the same page.
Yeah, this feud is already over. It's not a thing that should happen, and just move on.
It's a shame, because I really like both these guys. I think Brian Kendrick is a fantastic wrestler with a good personality, but what they're having him do here, and even I wasn't even big on the Tozawa feud. I mean, the in-ring quality was great, and Tozawa was great in it. But yeah, Kendrick didn't really seem to fit the feud. And he's not really fitting the feud here either. So,
but there's zero sense for it. Yeah. Like I said, he just needs to not be on TV. That's the end of the story. End of segment.
We had an Angle homecoming package, and then we had the recap of the Alexander and Dar stuff. Then we had the I Quit match, Cedric Alexander versus Noam Dar with Alicia Fox at ringside. I really liked the match. For two smaller guys, this was actually a really good I Quit match. I was kind of worried how that stip would work. Because I'm never the biggest fan of I Quit matches, like, kind of ever. They're hard to make work. Yeah. And it's particularly hard to make work when you have a couple of high flyers. But
my problem with them is that they always have this really hot angle where they have this face, and that always gets... the face always takes the beating, the face always... like he can't get a win over the heel, and then they're like, "Fuck it, we're doing an I Quit match," and then they give the heel the win again for no reason, and that's why 90% of I Quit matches suck.
Admittedly, that worry wasn't really present here because, for one, Noam Dar was the one who couldn't get a win.
Yeah.
So the match is pretty good. Innovated spot with the exposed turnbuckle metal part, and the fingers of Dar getting wrenched in it. That was really good. Really good plancha dive from Alexander. Even Alicia Fox is doing a very good job on the outside, selling concern for her man/client, whatever you want to call it. She did call for a count out, which cannot happen in an I Quit match, so that was a bit silly. That was after the rock bottom on yourself on the diamond ramp, which I don't like that move. You're giving yourself a rock bottom. I just don't like it.
Correct.
Continuing on though, minor nitpick. Alexander had this moment where he did some really stupid leg selling, where like he's going full tilt boogie, and then he like remembers he's got to sell, and he sells the living shit out of his leg as he's trying to get a chair. Like he's crawling, goes from like 100 to like 0.5%. That was a bit crappy. And the ending comes as Alexander puts Dar's hand inside the steel chair, kind of in a, snap the chair on him, break the forearm, I suppose would have been the part of the body it would have worked on.
Mm-hmm.
He stomps on it, asks Dar to quit. Dar won't do it. He stomps on it again. I think they did that 3 times, and then finally Alexander just starts repetitively stomping on the thing, pissed off after getting spit in the face. And
gives him a couple changes, like, listen, here, you better quit. You're not going to quit? Okay, bam!
Yeah.
All right, quit. You're not going to quit? Okay, bam! Yeah, quit. You're not going to quit. This is your last goddamn chance to quit. After this, it's all over for you. And he's like, no, fuck yeah. And then just stompity, stomp. Which
Steve Austin mud hole in a chair.
Yeah, I'm in favor of that. And hopefully that will keep... Hopefully we get like complete and total separation between all of these characters now.
Yeah. So I up to this point, I'm really down with this. Was a pretty good match. It has exceeded my expectations. Couple of minor nitpicks, but nothing significant. And then Dar gets on the mic and says he quits fighting Cedric, and he quits Alicia Fox. And at this point, I'm like, oh god, thank God. Fox, he's going to be the biggest face in the company. But then he goes full heel mode, talking about how in a nutshell, how great he is. Youngest wrestler on 205, youngest wrestler on Raw, signed at just 22 years of age. He's got a woman in every continent, every country, every city. Alicia Fox meant nothing to him. She was just there to gain attention to him. And there is a massive logic fallacy to how the rest of this feud has gone, because Dar has very clearly been absolutely whipped and definitely had feelings for Alicia. And the other thing is, so you got signed on your own at 22 years of age, youngest man on SmackDown, or not SmackDown, Raw and 205, before you ever got Alicia Fox. After you got Alicia Fox, all you did was get stuck in this bad feud with Cedric Alexander, which kept having you lose. So he packages it all off and Alicia, you become more trouble than you're worth. I'm like, she was always more trouble than she was worth by this logic. I don't. Correct. This was bad. It should have ended with him going face, basically, just dumping her.
Yeah, I'm in favor of it in a couple of directions, because now we won't have to have these 3 continually on my television.
Oh, I'm 100% behind that.
B, at least they're giving the kids something to work with instead of just being the sidekick or the third wheel in this trio of ridiculously bad booking. And it kind of gives people a little perspective. It gives people like, oh shit, he's 22? Oh damn, I didn't know that. Like, I legitimately didn't know he was 22. So that explains the bad haircut.
He's 23 now. Signed at 22, he's 23 now.
Well, whatever. Anyway, he's allowed to have that shitty haircut until he's at least 24. And then he has to have like an actual man's haircut. So, I mean, there's that. He's got a little leeway. So, I mean, it gives a little insight into him. It gives his character something else to kind of people to cling on to or at least observe. So, I mean, that's all good. And I just don't have to put up with their shit anymore, so I'm happy.
No, I like things about this. Like, almost everything in this was on its own in a vacuum. Was good. The delivery was good. It put over kind of a Playboy gimmick to a degree. A good heel character, and etc. But just in conjunction with how the rest of the storyline has gone, it just didn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I guess it's supposed to make me feel bad for Alicia, but I don't. She's been a massive bitch for a couple of months now. Like, you just can't come back from that. The natural alignment would have been Dar going face. Maybe even as like a tag team with Cedric Alexander or something. I don't know. They could have
been the ex-boyfriends.
Yeah.
Ex-boyfriends Incorporated.
Yeah, it took a turn that I just wasn't a fan of when everything's put together. But it does end the feud. I like that. I'm more interested in Dar now. It's just... it's not what I would have done.
Fair enough.
And if you were going to do this whole, like, him just discarding your thing, I would have stretched out for a little bit longer, maybe. Instead of having it be, like, you never meant anything to me, Alicia, it should have been, you did mean something to me, you were supposed to help me, but you didn't. You just wouldn't let Cedric go. You don't really love me. Boom. There you go. The kicker to the corner off that.
Yeah, I would have... If it would have been my character, I would have kicked her to the corner after the first phone got broken, but that's just me.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with this in any way.
My phone!
Mixed bag with 205, but some good stuff. And we'll roll with that. So then we're off to NXT. And we open up with a little bit of a recap package type, hype deal. But then we go into Aleister Black versus Bobby Fish. You want to go first, or shall I?
Oh, please go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to get the gushing out of the way because there is a negative that I have on this match.
It's your boy, Roberto Fish.
But I will gush here for starters. Number one, I have it listed here like ABC. So, number one, about freaking time Bobby Fish got signed. Number two, Mauro Ranallo is going to have so much fun referencing Dirty Bob Schreiber. Number three, this should be a freaking awesome match. The only downside of it was the mid-match commercial, which actually, it came early in the match, so it wasn't really mid, but again, this is on the network. There is no excuse to have commercials in your matches. Zero. None. But we've been through that. So moving on. The timing these two have is fantastic. They're doing a lot of actually very real-looking combat stuff. Mixing in a lot of Muay Thai, Dutch kickboxing, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And doing a great job. I think that a feud between these two would be fucking fantastic. It took them a little bit to get each other's timing, but once they did, it was really, really good. Aleister Black is amazing. So agile. Such great timing. The Black Mass Kick is a great move. His personality in the ring and his facial expressions are great. Bring him to the main roster now. And he gets the win with the Black Mass Kick. That being said, I didn't like this as a debut for Bobby Fish because he eats the L. And I wouldn't have had him in his debut beat Aleister Black, so in that regard, they made the right choice. I would have saved this for his second match, give him that intro, give him the win, let it build into this, because just for those who don't pay attention to the indies, this actually feels kind of like a step down from Aleister Black. For example, his matchup with Cassius Ohno, and even his matchup with Kurt Hawkins. So I would have saved it, let Bobby Fish have a showcase match, then boom. Then we're into this program. But otherwise, fantastic stuff. Your thoughts?
I was actually a little less high on the match. I found my attention really kind of wandering. But I think that has more to do with me than the match itself, because what was happening was, like you said, there was a lot of faux mixed martial arts going on, and I'm used to actual mixed martial arts. So by showing me all of these things that I know basically looked like a sparring match to me. It did not look like a wrestling match. It didn't look like a fight. It was something in between that didn't really do the job as far as my brain was concerned. And I just I do this when actual fights are going on that aren't going anywhere and are just turning into 3-round sparring matches. I just tune out. Like, there's other things my brain can be paying attention to, and so I allow it to do so. And that's what exactly happened to me during this match. It was very much just a sparring session. Didn't really care. Didn't really register on me. Occasionally they'd pull something out. I was, watching out of the corner of my eye, and I could see some setup for something, and I'd watch. Yeah, that was really well done. Good technique, and then I would just go back to doing whatever I was doing. So I'm hoping that they can do something a little, for lack of a better term, and this is not a term I'm going to probably use in the future, but if they could do something a little flashier, catch my attention. This is supposed to be professional wrestling. I'm supposed to see not just sparring. I'm either supposed to see what everybody tunes into the UFC for, which is an instant first round one hit knockout, or I want to see a really good war that people who are fighters really shouldn't be having, because that's bad for the brain hole. So, professional wrestling needs to provide me with something above kind of a mid-card UFC match. And this didn't really do it for me, and it took me a while to figure out why. Because I really, really, really wanted to enjoy this match.
I think you've kind of summed up the problem of doing MMA gimmicks in pro wrestling, is that people like you are not going to appreciate them. And that is a sizable portion of the audience. I did, but I totally see where you're going with your criticisms of the match.
Excellent.
Then we moved into a Cassius Ohno and Hideo Itami backstage deal, where Itami is blaming Ohno for their loss, and Ohno basically just wants him to man up. Like, at some point, it can't always be someone else's fault.
It is if you're just that clever.
Then we had a Street Profits promo. I like the fact that they spelt it profits like money as opposed to the biblical figure.
Although one of them does look like he's dressed like some sort of Muslim prophet type person.
Indeed. I'm not familiar with them, so I'm interested to see what they can do.
I'm prepared for it to be a total train wreck and then be pleasantly surprised.
Yep. We had a Velveteen Dream deal on the outside of the arena. Basically, he's not other superstars, and this is not an appropriate setting for an interview. So,
I enjoyed last week, or last time on NXT, Mr. Moronello really turned me around on the Velveteen Dream. This didn't really help get that moving with more hype for me. I love the instant, like, off the cuff. I don't have any spare change. Like, that was great. Just the little nonchalant one-off line was fantastic. But after that, it just kind of went back to the traditional, I'm a snooty heel, I'm better than everyone else. It's sort of one note. Yeah, atypical prima donna nonsense. But I don't know, there's something there. There's still something there that could develop, and I want to see it. I would like to see it develop overnight. I don't want any more nonsense. I just want the good stuff.
True, but it's gonna take time. Like I've said kind of from the beginning of this, I still don't really like the gimmick, but having watched Tough Enough and gotten to know Patrick Clark a little bit, not on a personal level, of course, but just from the show,
we're friends.
I understand. This is a very young man who is very into wrestling, and I trust that he does have the ability to succeed. He's a bit of a sponge. Like, he does learn quite quickly. but it will require some work. He's still very young, very green. Let's give him a chance. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I just, like I said, that the more I think about it, that one off the cuff line, I don't have any spare change. Like beauty is subjective, but this attractive backstage dressed up backstage interview bot was trying to interview you, and you automatically assume like you were so. The character is so beyond the regular human that somebody dressed up is assumed to be homeless.
It's good. It's good.
It's really fantastic, and I want to see more of that, and less of just the one note kind of prima donna heel.
Then we had a Mae Young Classic match between Vanessa Bourne and Jamie. It's either Hakey or Hacky. They were saying it both ways.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with whatever Morrow said. I think it was Hacky.
Hacky, yeah. Take it away. I did the Aleister Black Bobby Fish match. It's your turn.
I was not okay. So initial impressions were, oh shit! They gave the awesome intro music to the chick that can't wrestle, and they gave shitty intro music to the chick who's actually in shape and looks like she's a real wrestler. And then they actually started wrestling. And it was completely the opposite, and it was very disappointing, and it was very slow, and it was very sloppy, and it made, it wasn't sloppy, but it made Sexy Star look like a speed demon, and I was not enjoying it at all.
Yeah, I did not really enjoy the match. I will throw out the caveat that both of these girls are very new to the sport, so we're talking green on green here, which, on one hand, doesn't make a lot of sense that they're in the May, like they're in a qualifier for the Mae Young Classic. I think that's like you could find 32 better girls than this, but if they're interested in signing these girls to developmental contracts, I think there's some building blocks present.
Yeah,
You've got Vanessa Bourne, who is very agile, very athletic, pretty girl, really good music, as you said, and then Hacky, who's a big, strong girl with an amateur wrestling background. And that can usually be at least decent, given the appropriate training. So I like the future for both girls, but the present isn't that bright. They're not very good right now.
No, there was definitely like 2 or 3, maybe even 4 moments in the match where one of them turned around to see the other one, and you could tell that they were trying to go, listen, we went over this in the back. Am I doing this move now? Or, okay, we'll do this move now. And it's, not smooth. Was not smooth, was not quick, was not really enjoyable.
I will say that Bourne, for her size, is also very strong. So, there's a lot of physical talent there. She just needs to learn how to put it together. And Hakey, I would say, is further off. The only thing I'm really, kind of amped on is that, generally speaking, an amateur wrestling background can turn into a reasonably decent pro wrestler inside the ring. Not always on the mic, of course, but should be able to turn into something. So, like I said, excited for the future, but the current is not great. Then we had a Battlegrounds hype package, and then we had a recap of Drew McIntyre being attacked after the show last week by Alexander Wolf and Killian Dane. And Alexander Wolf, I'm still very mixed on him in the ring. I think he's a bit awkward and not necessarily in a good way. But as a character, as a crazy German guy, he is fantastic. He's amazing.
Yeah, he's really... I don't know what's going on with EY. Like, does anybody know? Is he injured? Or they just take him off TV to try and give other people some shine time?
Yeah, I've been wondering that myself, because there's been a lot of Sanity stuff without Eric Young.
Yeah, so Sanity was all over this fucking show, too.
Indeed, they're involved in almost every storyline.
Exactly. So, I really enjoyed, the whole beatdown outside is always borderline trash. It's rarely ever any good. But it was okay, and you got to hear Alexander Wolf do some taunting and some zany wackiness. Which
I enjoyed him just sitting on McIntyre's car.
Yeah. Oh, Mr. Undefeated. So, yeah, it was good times. I enjoyed it. I just, just blindside the guy and walk off. I don't need an extended kind of rabble around the trash cans while trainees are like, get some refs.
Yeah. So, yeah, mixed on it, but it did showcase the talents of Alexander Wolf, so it achieved something. So it's not terrible. Then we had William Regal and Bobby Roode in Regal's office, which just basically sets up Killian Dane versus Drew McIntyre, I believe, next week. Number one contenders match. The winner gets a shot at TakeOver Brooklyn.
I was a little sad that Roddy Strong isn't still in the title picture. It doesn't really make any sense for him not to be, and I don't know why.
Yeah, it was a bit of a fuck finish. I assumed that we were going to get a second match.
Yarp. Or maybe they're going to do the ultimate fuck finish, and they're going to have Dane and McIntyre destroy each other. Double disqualification, double countout, double something. And then Regal's like, well, these two are fucked. And they're still undefeated, so technically that's all. Everybody comes out ahead. And now you're facing Roddy Strong at Brooklyn again. Or now at Brooklyn you'll be facing Roddy Strong. And he's probably going to kick your ass.
I could see that. I could see that working. We had Johnny Gargano come out to do his bit. This wasn't really much of a promo.
No, the crowd was pretty much dead, and I don't know why, because it's Johnny Wrestling, so get the fuck up, you lazy bastards.
Yeah, this fell kind of flat, which was disappointing, because I was really, really looking forward to this, because Gargano usually is a great talker, and, usually he's pretty good at working a crowd, but there was definitely a disconnect here. Did get a Johnny Wrestling chance, so it wasn't completely gone, but just kind of flat, and basically we didn't really get any answers to what's next up for him particularly. Just he's got to get back to being Johnny Gargano, get back to being Johnny Wrestling, and he is still in disbelief that Tommaso Ciampa turned on him. So
good old Johnny Garbanzo
didn't really advance us anywhere.
Nope, not really.
And then we did have a rebound, though, as Heavy Machinery challenged the Authors of Pain for the NXT Tag Team Championship.
It's a whole lot of human.
This was a lot of human in ring. This is the heaviest match I'm pretty sure we've ever seen in NXT. The cons. The mid-match commercial break. Fuck!
Seriously.
Anyways, the match itself, though, this was a great Haas match. This was really, really good. 4 big-ass dudes doing power moves to each other, which look all the more impressive when you're doing it to another huge dude. Fantastic. Great. I enjoyed it immensely. As for the psychology of the match, pretty simple. The Authors of Pain isolated Tucker Knight from a large chunk of the match, but he gets the hot tag to Otis, who goes wild, and I love Otis Dozovich on the ring apron. That dude says just crazy stuff. Do not change a thing. Do not change a thing.
Fantastic. I enjoyed Otis Nosiness. Was quite amusing.
Heavy Machinery gets control briefly. Goes for the compactor. I believe that's what the name is called.
Yeah.
But the Authors of Pain strike back, send Tucker Knight to the outside, and then Otis gets DDT'd and then gets hit with a combo Russian lariat lariat and Russian leg sweep combo for the 3.
Isn't that called the final chapter? That's so I was
confused.
That's the final chapter.
Final chapter. Okay.
Is that because they do the final chapter in Super Collider, but I don't
think they can do Super Collider to these boys.
That would be entertaining. I think Moro was just a little into move calling mode instead of move naming mode.
I honestly spaced out on it being the last chapter, but you are indeed correct. Then Sanity comes out. I noted here minus Eric Young once again, and they do basically kind of stare down with the Authors of Pain as paper rains down from the ceiling, and Wolf tries to eat some of it. So, and Nikki Cross was preventing him from eating it. It was great. Nikki Cross is amazing. Alexander Wolf is a little below average in the ring, but very, very good as a character, as I said. Killian Dane,
I'm just wondering how much...
I've seen infinitely worse big men, but not really doing a lot for him.
He's no Mike Awesome, let's put it that way.
In fairness, that's not a bad thing.
I said it was a good thing. Being Mike Awesome was pretty darn good up until he was the Fat Chick Thriller.
Well, WCW's handling of him. Actually, I remember OSW was talking about Mike Awesome, and they were like, Mike Awesome, great-looking guy, big dude, tall. What do we do when we sign him with WCW signs him? Well, put him in there with Kevin Nash, the only dude taller than him. That's a great way to get him over.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a mismanaged talent, but he was incredibly unsafe. So
yeah, but
saying that you're not Mike Awesome is some definite good things to it.
Basically trained by Japanese guys who were crazy, so
you're not wrong.
He had like a 30-year feud with Masato Tanaka, who's psychotic.
Tanaka is probably the most unassuming psychotic killer in the world.
Yep.
So, presumably the paper is from the Book of Dominant, which would be actually very cool if they would confirm that. It would have been better if they had like shown us a shot of like AY ripping the book apart in the like up top or something and raining it down. That would have been better. But yeah, sanity kind of everywhere because you still got Nikki Cross theoretically somewhere near the title picture. You've got them going after the NXT title with Killian Dane. Presumably Alexander Wolf and Eric Young are going after the tag titles. So yeah, they're really everywhere. A feud between the Authors of Pain and Sanity could be really intriguing though, because it's a double heel feud. And
it's just a little bit of a like I would like to genuinely see how the Authors of Pain characters deal with the just in total insanity of Sanity, and also the down on numbers, which is a little weird for. Shouldn't really make a difference. It hasn't made a difference before, but there are a lot more of them than are usual with feuds with the Authors of Pain.
Mm-hmm. So I'm intrigued. I'm interested in that. So ended on a high note, started on a high note, bit of a trough in the middle where we had the not very good women's match and some mixed bag promo stuff. But not a bad show overall. And Bobby Fish is in NXT. Thank you. That's about all I've got to say on these two shows. You got anything you want to
add? Can we agree to refer to them as the composers of discomfort from now on?
I'm done with that.
Excellent.
Oh, just an interesting side note. I was watching Brian Alvarez's podcast, and one of his listeners, who is a public defender in California, decided to actually compile a list of Roman Reigns' crimes at Great Balls of Fire, and ignoring attempted murder because the defender said that they could probably. I don't remember if it was a defender or prosecutor, but the lawyer said he could probably get that taken away by claiming he didn't mean to kill him and just injure him. But they came up with like 8 separate crimes that he would be in jail for like a really, really long time for if found guilty. And he would be found guilty because the evidence is right there. So, yeah, the Roman Reigns stuff is still... Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer said that this would be a great double turn. They would have been fascinated with that kind of idea of Strowman going face and Reigns going heel. Problem is, that's not what we got. It appears Roman Reigns is still supposed to be the face of the company.
Yeah, well, that's not really working out so well.
Yeah, the logic in WWE right now is not terribly strong, and you kind of saw it on 205 with the Noam Dar stuff too.
I was watching the in between 205 Live and NXT. I watched the Kurt Angle special, and there was Vince was on there not infrequently, and some of the backstage we filmed backstage stuff, the candid shots and stuff. He looks really old, not. Oh yeah, we all know Vince is 70, 72 or whatever the fuck. He just looks like he's aging out. He looks not really focused, and he looks dull around the edges, quite frankly. So I'm wondering how much these really ridiculous storylines are just Vince being old Vince, not wanting anything to change, or like, does he literally have lapses in judgment? Does he have repeated seniors moments? What's going on there?
Well, there is something to say for that. I mean, he is a man in his 70s, I do believe. And
He's at least 70.
He is a man who we know abused a lot of substances when he was younger. And that's not really a good recipe for mental stability later on in life.
Yep.
So there's probably something to that. I mean, we kind of joke that Vince McMahon is crazy and that's why the product is bad, but there's probably more truth to it than we even really realize.
Yeah, there's one moment, if you watch the special, where he hugs Kurt, like they run into each other backstage. I think it's for the rehearsal for the Hall of Fame. And he just looks like anybody's really old grandfather in the middle of a hot afternoon. He just looks, yeah, okay, yeah. Like, he just sort of has that, I can't really focus to be enthusiastic sort of thing going on. So, I don't know, check it out for yourself. Let me know in the comments what the hell you think. Is Vince having, shall we call them, senior moments?
I think, generally speaking, the company would just, even if he was completely in control of his faculties and stuff, I think that the time for just someone else to be in the reins has come.
Yeah.
You get set in your ways as you get older, and you're less open to new ideas. And I think wrestling as a whole right now needs some new ideas for how to maintain its, maintain ratings, popularity, etc. And I don't want to disrespect the legacy of Vince McMahon, because in all seriousness, the man has done a lot for this business. But he is, I think, it's safe to say, currently holding it back. From what it can be.
He's been holding it back since the late 90s, really. It's, like, once
Shawn the early 2000s.
Well, once Shawn Michaels showed him that he was not in touch with what was cool anymore, like and Vince has acknowledged this, and Shawn Michaels has said it on record more than once, is the episode where he put the sausage down his pants, and then Vince fined him and was going to suspend him. He's like, for what? I was just having fun. You don't. He flat out told him, you're too. Pretty much in a nutshell, you're too old. You don't know what's cool anymore. And Vince, wasn't happy to hear that, but once he saw, and Shawn kept going out and doing things that were making people go crazy and getting over and really getting people enthusiastic, Vince was more open to just letting Shawn do what Shawn wanted to do because it was working, because he knew what was cool. And Vince's main issue and major downfall is that he never found another Shawn Michaels. When Michaels was finally kind of done, and that was it for him, and he wasn't really the top draw anymore, he should have found the next guy who was kind of edgy and on top of things and knew it was awesome, and he should have let John Cena. I know he does let John Cena do a lot of whatever he wants to do, but he should have just let, honestly, John Cena or somebody at that point, just maybe Zack Ryder. Maybe if Zack Ryder was a little bit more over, and he could have said, listen, Vince, look what I'm doing. I'm over like you wouldn't believe, and it has nothing to do with how you're booking me. It has nothing to do with the storylines you're writing, and I'm able to do this. Just trust me, I know what I'm doing, and we can go forward. But he never found another guy like Shawn Michaels that he could either trust or felt like he wanted to listen to. And, I mean, then you get the mid-2000s and early 2000s of wrestling, where it's all the same over and over, and it's the same storyline every April for the same character types every April, and from there on out, it's just Vince being Vince.
I think it's less about finding your Shawn Michaels and more about he's been a hindrance ever since he's been the dominant force. Ever since he hasn't had competition. Mm-hmm. In a nutshell, Vince McMahon represents the problem with CEOs when they become a monopoly, they don't feel they need to change what was working, hence the repetitiveness. There's no one to prove that they do need to change because, I mean, as we said, what's the number 2 wrestling promotion in America right now? Probably ROH?
Yeah.
No, not anywhere near the revenue or the exposure, etc. So, not a threat. And that's kind of the thing is, when you can be told, hey, no, it doesn't matter what the fans say, we're still making money. We're making a ton of money. We're making ridiculous amounts of money. I mean, look at us compared to the next one. The fans are clearly wrong. We're making the money. And that's the cycle that we've been in since WCW went under. And to be honest, even before that, because WCW at the end was not a threat. But post Monday Night Wars, there's been no one to keep Vince McMahon honest. And he has surrounded himself with yes men.
Kevin Dunn.
Well, not even Kevin Dunn per se, because it's a larger symptom than even just Kevin Dunn.
Yeah.
It's everyone. No one wants to disagree with Vince because if Vince gets mad and fires them, there's nowhere to go. There's tons of stories from various ex-wrestlers. Ryback told one recently about why Tyler Breeze stopped getting pushed.
I saw that.
Yeah, it was basically short story. Tyler Breeze was told to go home. He did. He walked past Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon objected to him going home early. No one said, well, but we told him to go home early because, again, you may get fired or at least displease the boss, and there's not really another place to go because Impact Wrestling has a hard time even paying you on time or at all, and ROH doesn't really need a lot of what WWE has. Like if you're a writer in WWE, you get fired, ROH probably isn't a place for you. And I don't really know how credible your resume ends up being to get into like other avenues of TV writing. So that I would say is your bigger problem than even just like having the Shawn Michaels. It was, to me, it's the timing of it all. Shawn was able to say, well, look, I'm getting the crowd all wrapped up. The ratings are going up. We beat them this quarter. We lost them this quarter. You know, you can prove what you're doing is cool with something undeniable, with statistics or facts. And you can't do that anymore.
Yeah, well, then I think the major problem, like you're highlighting, is that since they're making all this money, there's no way that Vince is ever going to listen and think that he's wrong. Also, there's no way to prove that he is wrong because everybody else is on a different model than they are. ROH makes all their money off of TV and DVD sales, whereas the WWE makes all their merch, but WWE mainly makes merch makes money off of merch and the network. I mean, pay-per-view is not even a thing for them anymore, is it?
Still is, but I would imagine pay-per-view revenues way the fuck down because I mean, you get the pay-per-views with the network.
Yeah, and Vince doesn't give a shit about TV numbers because they have the network. So
well, and it's also that he's convinced himself that the TV numbers are just going down because of cord cutting.
Yeah,
which
is not
if
true.
You listen to Dave Meltzer's rant on that, you kind of realize that's not There's a kernel of truth in that that Dave kind of glosses over. And the kernel would be if more wrestling fans cut the cable or cut the cord than non-wrestling fans, your ratings would go down. And that probably is true because, of course, your cord cutters tend to be a little bit cutting edge, which does tend to be kind of a slightly nerdier pro wrestling friendly crowd.
Yeah.
That being said, the ratings are still based off of how many people have TV, not how many people there are. So if I cut my cord, well, effectively, I have cut my cord. My landlords have TV, which I can use, but I don't have TV. I am a cord cutter. I don't impact the ratings really in any way, shape, or form. If I represent more of a percentage of the viewership of that show, then it will, but not just by cutting the cord. Because it's a percentage-based thing.
Exactly. So since it's a percentage-based thing, and they're losing, 1 million viewers a year or something like that? So if you're
which is greater than the drops in other ratings for other shows.
Yeah. So if you're losing 1 million viewers a year, and it's a percentage-based thing, that means that you're probably losing 5 million, or I don't know how to quantify it really, but you're losing a shit ton of viewers, dude. You're not losing just a couple here and there or some percentage points. you're losing a lot. You're losing a vast amount, and there's only a small percentage left, and then people are still not watching. So, what the hell?
Like the proof in a nutshell is that no one above the age of like 13 is becoming a new wrestling fan, really.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you compare this with how many of my friends from like high school, for example, who did watch wrestling and do not watch wrestling anymore, is, to be honest, your proof. If you can't retain the audience below that age, you're going to see even a further shrinkage.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those kids probably won't actually stick with you because you're not going to retain them. And the next generation probably won't be as friendly to it because the thing is, right now, you have a bunch of kids whose parents were alive and teenagers, maybe early 20s, maybe a little bit before teenagers, during the Monday Night Wars.
Yeah.
People my age, plus or minus, say, 6 years.
Yeah, well, case in point, I'm 37. I was 18 when the Monday Night Wars pretty much were, the Monday Night Wars were like 96, 97, 98.
I would say that'd be the peak, yeah.
Yeah, so I was 16, 17, 18, and then in the early 2000s, I stopped watching because it was the same bullshit every damn time. And I just got stupendously bored. I had my intelligence insulted constantly by the announcers, and I was done with it. So, if you can't retain, you're coming off of your hottest period in the history of the business, and you can't keep viewers then, how are you going to keep viewers now?
Well, it's also that, for example, okay, you're 37 years old, your kids, if you were to have them under a kind of normal aging curve, which your kids would be what, like 12, maybe 10, like 12 years old?
Yeah.
So you'd have like 10, 12-year-olds, which are like supposedly we're keeping John Cena hot for those kids because they're going to buy the merchandise and so on. All right, but if they
I would be talking shit about John Cena the whole time.
Yeah, but if they age out of wrestling before they hit their teens, they're probably not going to take their kids to see wrestling in the future when they have kids. And that's the thing is, wrestling is sort of hot with the kids right now because you have the Monday Night Wars parents. Wrestling for them is a nostalgic point. They really enjoyed it. It was a high point. So they introduced their kids to it. And facilitated it. Because the thing is while wrestling is open now with the internet and so on, you can watch it whether your parents want you to or not. It's still a little bit harder to get the network, which is going to put money in WWE's pocket, get the merch, which is going to put money in WWE's pocket, or go to live shows if your parents are not wrestling fans. And that's why I think in the next generation, you're going to see even a bigger drop in viewership if they don't do something to fix what's going on.
Yep.
And presumably at that point they will, because Vince will be dead. But
yeah, I assume that Triple H, hopefully, and I hope we'll kind of wrap this up, I think, on this, but I'm hoping that Triple H and Steph and Shane can all kind of come together, because Shane's always been the cutting edge guy and has never ever been acknowledged for what could have been his contributions that the rest of the family just kind of went, no, I don't want to do that. But if somebody would goddamn well listen to Shane for once, they could probably do some great stuff. And Triple H has shown that he knows exactly what should be being done to build and continue the business. So, and from what I hear, Stephanie's really well liked by the talent, even though her character should never ever be on TV ever again because it's goddamn boring.
Her character is garbage. Please end that. You know what? When she was behind the creative team on SmackDown, they did some good work. So, I don't really question Stephanie McMahon's brain per se. It's just her on-screen character is terrible. Please never bring it back.
So I'm just hoping with that, kind of triumvirate of brains that things will be awesome. And that's pretty much all I have to say about that.
Pretty much. Someone gets behind the driver's seat who wants to put their stamp on the business. And the problem is, for Vince McMahon, stamp's already there. He knows what to do, and there's no drive to do anything different. I think for Triple H, for Shane, not so much for Steph, but I don't think she would get in the way of it. You would have someone with that drive, and that might turn it around. I hope, because I would really like WWE get to the point where I enjoy all 7 hours of your TV, because right now I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
And as per usual, get off Byron's lawn.
For real. Hey, when's G1 coming up? Is it soon?
I don't know off the top of my head.
God damn it.